Celine's breath fogged the bathroom mirror after her shower. She wiped it, then flinched. A thick, black vein throbbed under her left eye, squirming. She pressed a finger to it. It bit her. Her scream died as her jaw clamped shut. In the mirror, her reflection tilted its head, smiling with too many teeth. "Always here," it hissed in her voice. "Since you were 6. Since the closet." Her fingernails tore off. Bone claws punched through her fingertips. She gagged as something wet and hot crawled up her throat, a knotted tangle of centipede legs and matted hair, clicking excitedly. It pried her eyes open, forced her to watch as her ribs split into jagged petals. The last thought she owned was her mother's laughter echoing from her childhood closet. The last thought it gave her was worse: Mom's next. The bathroom door creaked open. Celine's body skipped downstairs, humming her favorite lullaby. Her phone lit up in the dark, coming over. "Mama. I'll check under your bed first." Father Adrian entered the ancient monastery, summoned to investigate the sudden disappearance of 5 nuns. The moment he stepped inside, the heavy wooden door slammed shut behind him. The air smelled of damp stone and decay. At the end of the dim hallway stood a nun, her back turned, her veil fluttering unnaturally despite the still air. "Who's there?" Adrian called, gripping his rosary. She turned. Her face was a hollow abyss, her mouth opening impossibly wide, releasing a deafening, inhuman scream. The walls bled black ichor, and faint, tortured whispers filled the air. Adrian ran toward the chapel, but the floor twisted beneath his feet, dragging him into the crypt below. Candles flickered to life, revealing the missing nuns suspended from the ceiling, their eyes sewn shut, their mouths whispering prayers in reverse. A voice thundered from the shadows, "You were brought here to confess. Your sins cannot be forgiven." Adrian's breath hitched. A clawed hand erupted from the darkness, grabbing his chest, and the last thing he saw was his reflection in the creature's eyes, pleading, screaming, already consumed. The next morning, the monastery stood empty. But if you listened closely near the chapel door, you could hear faint whispers: "Confess. Confess. Confess." Are you brave enough to look behind you? Stick around till the end for the twist you'll never forget. Sister Maria knelt in the candlelit chapel, her whispers echoing into silence. Midnight struck. Behind her, the shadows moved. She froze as a low, guttural voice whispered, "Pray for me." Turning slowly, she saw a figure, a nun, but its face was a hollow void, dripping black ichor. Maria stumbled backward, the rosary cutting into her hand. The candles snuffed out one by one, leaving her in utter darkness. The void-faced figure loomed closer, whispering, "You wear the cloth, but your soul is mine." Her screams were swallowed by the darkness. When the priest found her the next morning, the chapel was empty. On the altar lay Maria's habit, soaked in blood, with a single phrase carved into the wood: "No one is saved." If you're still breathing, hit the like button, subscribe to Shadow Tales, and share this story with a friend who loves horror.
The abandoned monastery loomed under the pale moonlight, its bell tower frozen in silence. Local whispers claimed it was cursed, a place where no prayers could save you. 2 travelers, desperate for shelter, ignored the warnings. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and decay. Faintly, the sound of distant chanting echoed through the empty halls. As they explored, a figure stepped from the shadows, a nun in a tattered habit. Her veil obscured her face, her hands clasped tightly around a rosary that looked rusted with blood. "Do you seek salvation?" she whispered, her voice layered with an unnatural growl. One traveler nodded nervously, but the other grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "We should go," he hissed. The nun's head tilted sharply, an audible snap reverberating in the room. Too late. Her veil fluttered as she lifted it, revealing hollow eye sockets that oozed black tears. Her jaw unhinged, stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of sharp, yellowed teeth. Shadows poured from her mouth like living creatures, crawling across the walls and floor. The travelers ran, but the hallways warped, closing in like a labyrinth. The chanting grew louder, now a guttural roar. One man tripped, screaming as the shadows wrapped around his body, pulling him into the floor. His face dissolved, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. The other traveler burst into the chapel, slamming the door behind him. But the nun was already there, waiting, her form towering and twisted, her rosary now a chain of human teeth. She whispered, "Pray," before plunging her clawed hands into his chest, ripping out his shadow. The next morning, the monastery bell tolled for the first time in